The awakening that I had was when I was in my therapy office and I was completely burned out and spending every weekend doing paperwork. So I literally, it's almost as my soul kind of just sat me back and paused me. And I had this, which I talk about, is called a soul tap, where my soul and heart was like, you need to stop. You need to take care of yourself. The message was kind of like, you need to work with people regarding higher consciousness.
Welcome to the Awaken Magazine podcast, where we feature inspiring leaders who are helping our world awaken to love. I'm your host, David Trotter, and today I want to share with you a wonderful conversation with Dixie Willis. She's a certified life coach, meditation facilitator, and a contributing author to our brand new anthology book called Awakened Hearts, which you can pick up at awakenedheartsbook.com. Now, in this conversation with Dixie, we go back in time to a moment in her therapy office when she was a therapist, serving clients, loving them, caring for them, and yet simultaneously feeling burned out and restricted, not being able to utilize her intuitive gifts in order to serve them. She talks about the difficult decision to leave that practice that she had worked so hard in order to develop and gone to school and all of the different steps in order to become a counselor and a therapist. And then she shares with us how she listened to what she called soul taps, this intuitive nudging that became a guide for her to find more of a deeper sense of purpose, of peace, and joy in her life. And then she shares how she's been able to integrate intuitive modalities like Reiki and mediumship and shamanic journeying into her clinical background in order to truly serve clients at the deepest level. Now, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Awaken Magazine podcast on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Click subscribe, leave a rating or a review, and that's an easy way to help us spread the word about these inspiring interviews that we are releasing each and every week. All right, let's dive into this conversation with Dixie Willis. Dixie, it's great to be with you. Thanks so much for taking time to hang with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on Awaken Magazine and for being here. I'm very honored to be part of this. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to hear a bit about your story of your awakening to mindfulness, consciousness, spirituality. Did you grow up with some sort of faith tradition in your home, or did that come to you later in life?
Yeah, so I was raised. I'm from the South, so I was in the Baptist church at some one point, Church of Christ. I had friends who were in Catholic faith, so I actually enjoyed um, going to different churches, experiencing different religions. But the awakening that I had was when I was in my therapy office and I was completely burned out, David. I was seeing clients back to back to back and spending every weekend doing paperwork. So I literally, it's almost as my soul kind of just sat me back and paused me. And I had this, which I talk about, is called a soul tap, where my soul and heart was like, you need to stop. You need to take care of yourself, and you need to the message was kind of like, you need to work with people regarding higher consciousness, and you need to help the planet heal. And it's continuing to help people, but in a larger scale. The message was, it needs to be on a much broader scale. Not that I didn't enjoy working with my clients in a therapy setting. I just was in a small office. I felt kind of like a caged bird in that space, and I was burned out. And my soul's like, it was it was subtle, but it was a deep knowing that I had to make a change, and I did. And it was very scary because I worked really hard to, go through, get the degree, interning and all of that. And I really love working with my clients, but I took the leap, and it took me a while to make that decision even though I knew it was the right decision, it took me quite a while to actually do it. So, the consciousness and mindfulness that I um, had experienced even as a young child. I experienced different religions, and I'm open to learning about all religions because I think there's a golden thread within all of them, and the golden thread for me is just simply love, right? Is connection and love. So I like experiencing the different things, but my soul wanted me to help people not just where I am in Colorado, but to expand it out into the world. And in the therapy world, you either have to have reciprocity in other states or you have to have a dual license to work with people outside of your state. And my soul wanted me to expand that. So to answer your question, it was really a gentle soul tap, but it was a deep knowing within my heart and soul that I had to make a change and broaden, the people that I work with, even though I still love working with clients. That's the heart of what I love doing is
Sure,
helping
sure.
people. Yeah. Yeah. So
So, in reading your story in Awakened Hearts, it was interesting because it sounded like you stepped into utilizing your intuitive gifts for quite a few years. And then what you're referring to is that you felt then called to, uh, I guess the way you described it in the book was kind of a bit more of like I don't, maybe you didn't use this word, but like official, like somehow
yeah,
like traditional path more.
right.
And then felt called then back out of that. How did that path go? Like, take us through that journey.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's actually a really good question, because I want readers and viewers to know this, that and work with clients with this is our purpose is not one particular thing. I this was my own I had a spiritual business 5 years prior to going into the clinical world, and my own I don't know if it was ego, but maybe it's partly that. It was I need to have a real job or have real credentials, when I was already doing what I loved. So I went, earned my master's degree in clinical mental health, and I did it for several years because I felt like I would be taken more seriously if I wasn't too woo woo. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it was the cultural norm. Like I was following that more traditional path and not really listening to my soul. So I was pulled away from it, even though I loved helping the people that I helped. When I had that soul tap when I was sitting in the clinical office saying, you need to you need to be expressing the spiritual side more. You need to be able to help people on a much larger scale and use the gifts that you naturally have and not have to with the clinical. And I think it's very important. I want to say that I have friends and colleagues who are counselors and they're amazing. So mental health is very important, but it was with my spiritual gifts, I wanted to be able to use those without restraint any constraints, if that makes sense. So it was like I felt like I had to um, prove myself or have the letters behind my name. And when I did that, I love working with people, but I got burned out, and it's like, no, I need to go back to the spiritual work where I've always been. But I do spirit medium work, I do Reiki, I do shamanic journeys, and you can't do that in the clinical world. So balancing the two worlds or the bridging that, if you will. So I'm back to, excuse me, spiritual life coaching, which I can be more myself, authentically myself without anything holding me back. Does that make sense? Like being
Oh, of
able to
course.
fully just yeah. Yeah.
How hard was that decision
Mm.
to say, "Well, I just worked my buns off to get
Yeah.
here,"
Yeah.
and it's so fascinating because most people that I connect with, they're
Mhm.
in a corporate job or kind of that traditional role of whatever it is and going, "Man, if I
Right.
could just serve people full time doing whatever I wanted to do." You were there and you
Yeah.
left it.
Yeah.
And I totally understand the motivation, it totally makes sense, but then to leave that again, how hard was that decision?
Oh, it was actually really, really, like, soul searching hard, even though I knew on a soul level, it was a soul tap, I knew I still had to I wouldn't tell a client, "Just throw away your career." You have to I had some savings, I had to transfer my clients, but I actually went to a retreat where I got silent and my soul, okay, am I making the right decision here? And it took me about 8 months to actually inactivate my license. So I still could reactivate, but my soul is guiding me where I am now. So it was very hard. It was sitting with it and going back and forth in the, yeah, but I can do this. I could do this way and have the more comfortable, security, which a lot, like you're saying, in the corporate world, a lot of people, clients I work with, doctors, lawyers, preachers, counselors, coaches, so moms, dads, military that I've worked with, some of them feel like they're stuck in this job or career, and I felt the same way. So it's not easy. It wasn't an easy decision because, like I said, I've worked so hard for years and interning for free, and go. This was during the pandemic, and I was going through a divorce at the time, so it was a lot, and had two teenagers, so it wasn't an easy path to get my master's, but I think the work that I do now, I really wanna encourage people to take that leap, but also do it in a smart way, right? I didn't just up and leave and not have any savings or just left my clients hanging. Ethically, I wouldn't do that, but I had to get to a place where I felt it in my heart and soul, like, deeply, even though I knew at the time when I had the awakening, I had to. Actually, I worked with a coach who I love. She's like, "First, you need to rest because 'cause you're completely burned out." After that, she's like, "You need to rest before you make any decisions." I went to a retreat and did a lot of deep work on myself, and I knew it was the right decision. So it really took me a good, I'd say, 8 months to finally go to the regulatory board and activate my license. So it took a long time, but I love working with people that, even though it's scary, they're willing to take that risk, or I don't even call it that leap of faith, if you will, because I have no regrets. I've seen so many people who've done that who are living the life that they love, and that's what I want to encourage my clients to do as well, even though it's not easy. Definitely not easy.
When I was in ministry, would talk about people that, were stuck, and we called it the golden handcuffs, right? Because you're stuck
Mm,
to that paycheck. And oftentimes, if you go to school for ministry, a lot of those individuals, you feel stuck. It's like, well, what am I going to do? I don't have any experience outside of the church. And so
right.
now, a lot of them turn into selling insurance or cars or something to utilize those people skills. But those golden handcuffs can be so challenging no matter what field you are in, that sense of stability. But yet, as you talked about in
Mm,
the Awaken Hearts chapter, you felt like you were in this uh, cage that you couldn't get out of. As you look
yeah,
back on the experiences
yeah.
of um, the time in sharing your intuitive gifts, then spending all of the effort and energy and preparing to be a therapist and doing that, and now making the transition, how do you look back on that time? Like, are there lessons that you can take from that, or how do you make sense of that or make meaning of it?
Oh, absolutely. It's none of the lessons were lost. None of the experience was lost. None of the time with my clients was lost. It was all part of my process and part of their process. So I don't think it was it helps me with who I am now. It helps me with my clients now. It's a different approach with coaching versus counseling, but I'm still using my experience. Like you said, people, they're may do different jobs, but they're still using the experience they have. That's not lost. So I still use that in my sessions. I still use my experience to help my clients. So it's definitely not not lost. It's just, and I will say, back to, when people are trying to decide to make that really tough decision like you and I both have, I I some people have to do moonlighting, or they have to have a part-time job, or they can't just jump full, because we all have to make a living, so we have to be realistic, but at the same time, it doesn't mean you can't take. I encourage my clients to take one, if it's one little step. I mean, what lights you up? What brings you joy? It doesn't have to be, I want to point this, it does not have to be a career or a job. It could be just something you love, like being around more like-minded people, or being out in nature more, taking those 15 minutes, even more each day, like tiny steps every day. is a step. So I want people to hear that. It doesn't have to be a major decision all at once, it could be tiny steps, which most people have to do realistically,
Mhm.
right?
You write, and you just actually mentioned those questions, but you write in the chapter, "What do you want?" You're asking people, "What do you want?" and "What do you love that brings you joy?" And I know, in interviewing, and watching a lot of the channeling from Daryl Anka, with the
Yes.
Steve Bashar, he's like, "Follow your excitement," right?
Yes,
What
love
e
him, but
what
yeah.
excites you? What a simple yet profound concept. How about if I don't know what brings me joy?
Yeah,
I
that's a
just
great
I don't even know. What do I
yeah.
do?
So I'm gonna go back to the want, then the joy, and by the way, I love Bashar. Daryl's awesome, I do listen to him, he's beautiful. So the want, and then I'll go to the joy. A lot of my clients, self included in the past, is like, they really don't know what they want. If their dads or moms are so busy, we get caught up in life, right? And we forget to live. So I ask, "What do you want?" And a lot of I didn't know for a long time, like, "Oh, what do I don't know. I'm a mom, I'm a this, I'm a that," all the names, right? Um, so I would at first ask them if they even know what they want, because a lot of times they don't know. Clients don't know. So it's getting clear on what you want, but what brings you joy? That was your question. How do you even know what brings you joy? Some people don't know that either. It's like, wow. And just that question, David, gets people back into themselves because we're so torn on so many things every day coming at us. So if they don't know what brings them joy, I want maybe just sitting out. I always always recommend my clients sit out somewhere in nature with your feet, your shoes, socks off in the grass, grounding yourself, getting and even being by water is even better. But if you can get out in nature by yourself, get still, and just go and put your hands on your heart. Like this is really hard for some people. I've noticed that. I've done meditations and put your hands on your heart, shut your eyes if you're comfortable, ground yourself, and just be and sit with that for a little bit and ask yourself from your heart, not your mind, from your heart, what brings me joy? What excites me? And they may have to journal for a while. It may be when I was in my transition back from clinical back to spiritual, I journaled a lot. I wrote a lot. I wrote down every job, career, and volunteer work I'd done since I was 10. I'd worked since I was 10. And the thing that I was like, "Oh, I really love writing." I mean, I can always improve, but I really love to write, and that's the way I express my heart and soul to people. So for me, it was writing, journaling, and maybe they write. It was something I did when I was a teenager. So it may be something that they did. And I talk to clients about this, clinical or spiritual. What have you done in your life that really you lose yourself in? You lose time. You could be hours and you're like, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed this. And they just lose themselves in it. So that is a hit. That is a I call a soul tab. Okay, this means something. Pay attention to that. So if they're like, "Oh my gosh, when I was 15," just an example, I loved writing. Well, maybe start writing. You may be scared to do it, but the little bit of the anxious scaredness is actually good. So it's just exploring what thinking back, what have I done in my life where I could lose time, and I really just loved whatever it was I was being or doing at the time. That's a good way to start it.
Mhm. It's fun for me, when I was, 14, 15, I somehow landed in this journalism class, in Kentucky, and the teacher said, "Hey, would you like to learn how to take photos?" And this was darkroom film, the whole thing.
Yeah,
So my
yeah.
grandparents bought me a Minolta X370 DSLR camera, and for Christmas, and I got taught how to roll film and take photos
Oh,
and
wow.
develop the photos. And I then, for the next 2 years, was part of putting out the weekly newspaper there. And then I moved to California when I was a junior, and I became the head photographer of a school newspaper in Northern California. And then when I was a senior in high school, I started working at the local newspaper, as a photographer. So I never was in charge of like the newspaper, but I love creating things,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like just creating things that other people enjoy. And I think I love that question because sometimes even as I'm working with people, it's like thinking back to adolescence and kind of those teenage growing up years, those
Yeah.
sparks are oftentimes found even there, what brought you
Mhm.
joy. So yeah, it's so beautiful. You have, I think you might have mentioned while we were recording, you have 2 teenage or 2 kids.
Yes.
One's not a teenager. Um, how do you help them navigate that season of trying to figure out what's next,
Yeah,
knowing that, I mean, we're of the age where you make a decision, you're heading down a path. You can always
yeah.
change the path, but you're heading down a path. How do you help them with those decisions with the knowledge and experience that you now have?
That's actually a really good question. So my son just turned 18. He's gonna be going to CU, in the fall, and he is going to start exploratory because he's not sure. So I'm not pressuring him to know. I didn't know at 18. Actually, I shouldn't even started college at 18 because I'd had no idea. But what he does love, David, and I encourage this. I actually got him an amp for his 18th birthday, and his dad got him electric guitar. So we encourage his create he's incredibly creative. He can draw stuff that would be on a cover of an album, and I'm not just saying that because he's my son, but he really is very creative in that way, and he's starting to play the git he was playing the acoustic, and now he's playing the electric guitar. I encourage that. I encourage the creativity because, some parents, will want them to go down just this straight, narrow path. Well, I did that. That didn't work out for me, right? With the clinical, I was like, "Oh, I have to do stuff this way." And it's not a soul calling. It's not a wrong calling if you go there, but I want people to pay attention to what's like you said, when you're a junior, and look what you do now. I mean, so I encourage my son. I said, Go take a class on art. Use your creative gifts. I mean, that they're there for a reason. He can draw something beautiful in minutes, and I could barely draw a stick figure. So I encourage his creativity. And my daughter, who she did went to France last summer because she could speak French. That's what was her minor. She graduated from UA, University of Alabama, but she last summer, she studied abroad in France, and she could speak French pretty fluently, and she loves it. So now she's trying to find a way to use that creative part of her, going forward, with her life. So I encourage them in that way, and I would encourage my clients in that way. We all have to have a job, and maybe it's something you may not love, but that does not mean you can't spend even 10 minutes if it's drawing or playing the guitar or writing, whatever it is, that is something that we need to pay attention to and not ignore even at a young age.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of the things, now I sound like an old fart, but as I get older, amazing how I look back and see what can sometimes feel like fragmented experiences
Mhm.
that all of a sudden are creating this mosaic where it's like, "Oh, okay, I get to use this experience and this wisdom and this,
Yes.
challenging, moment in this job," kinda where it all kinda comes together. I think the more that somehow we can blend those things, those wisdoms, those experiences, those skills that we've developed, and into something that we really enjoy. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I love how you said that, Dave, is the mosaic of the pieces like you are a publisher, you're a writer, you're doing these amazing, amazing things right now, but you started those pieces were coming together when you're younger, and you may not have even known that.
Right.
Just like my son and my daughter and everyone in the world, like, pay attention to those. I love working with people. I love working with people, and I always have, but helping people different ways. I've love helping people since I was a little girl. There's just a side, there was a homeless man. I was in New Orleans, from a native of Louisiana, not New Orleans, but my late mother and I were in New Orleans, and there was a man just sitting on the sidewalk. And my heart, just felt for him. And I was like, Mom, and it was just so happened to be McDonald's. So that's all it was right there. But I said, "Well, we need to go get him some food." So it's like, okay, we got him food and we gave him food. So just little gestures of helping people has been something that's really important to me since I was a little girl.
Mhm.
And it's tweaking it in different ways throughout my life, just as you have. I love, again, I'm going to go back to that, like you said, the mosaic of pulling these different pieces, and then that's what I would encourage my client to do is pay attention to that. That means something,
Yes.
that really does. So
Yes.
we may not know it for a long time, but pay attention to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My daughter's 25 and she's, kind of wrestling with some transitions where she's like, "Well, dad, I got this degree in theology. I spent a year in South Korea teaching English. I'm a barista. Now I'm going to master's for speech language pathology. How does this solve?" I go, "I guarantee you, just wait 10 years. Just keep going. It'll
Yeah,
all come together." And you'll be like,
I
"Oh my
love
gosh, I can't believe how all these things just, integrate." And, I think, I just love what you're saying is for those of us who are older, how can we see those as a mosaic and
yeah,
draw upon those experiences? Talk to me about how you work with people. Um, you work primarily one-on-one, with
yes,
individuals, is that correct? Okay.
yeah.
And what are all the different modalities that you have that you can draw upon when somebody comes to see you? And what are the typical challenges that people are facing when you work with them?
Yeah, so I do one-on-one and also do group work as well. So I have the experience of being a licensed professional counselor, so I have the clinical side, but I also am a spiritual life coach, and I pull from the past, pull from the present. And I also am a Reiki master, so I can do I used to have in-person Reiki sessions, but I do distance healing Reiki sessions. I do spirit medium work and I do shamanic journeys. But those are all different sessions. And when a client comes to me, the main thing that I hear, and I also experience, so I love that I kind of had to go through it. You have to go through it to really be able to help someone with what you've been through, and it is they feel burned out. They, know in their bones, in their soul, whatever you wanna call it, their heart, that there's something more. I hear that all the time. I'm burnout. I hate my job. I hate my life, whatever it is, and I work with them. I ask them some very powerful question, not surface. We go deep. I go deep in my sessions, um, because we're not playing around. We're not playing small. This is going to the heart and soul to get to the heart and soul of who we are and what we wanna be in the world. So it's one-on-one sessions, setting goals with them, doing deep work, and help. And I love when I see a client get excited, like they're like, "Oh my gosh, I did this and I loved it," and we follow that path. It's like, don't veer away because you're a little scared, a little nervous, like, if they wanna be a speaker, go there. It's a little scary, but go there. So I work one-on-one with them to encourage, what I see a lot is people feeling burnout and knowing there's something more, and there's a shift. I'm seeing it a lot. Like, people are starting to not just corporate doctors, it's everyone. They're not everyone, but a lot of people are wanting to do more with their lives, and they're like, "How do I do that?" As a coach, you can hear the excuses, like, I coulda made the excuses too, it's not easy. It's not easy, but you can take a small step. There's always something you can do, even if it's getting up 10 minutes earlier to meditate. So I work one-on-one, I do group work, and I love, Reiki is important too. We're all energy, so I do energy work, I do medium work, and I do shamanic work. So I love the different modalities to help a client where they are, and of course, they ask me. I don't ever push, if I'm doing grief work, I would never say in a session, "Hey, I see a spirit." That's not I wouldn't do that. But if a client wants to do a spirit medium session, we will do that. So I love the different modalities to help people on their paths. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
And so you essentially, when they come with the challenge or situation, do you offer them these different, sessions, or is it more of a spiritual life coaching to begin with and then see what arises?
So I have different packages. So if I do a discovery call, a 15-minute free discovery call to kind of see what the client, if we're a match and if what the client wants to work on and if we can work on that. Because as a therapist, we have to work with things like suicidal ideation and trauma and that type of thing. As a therapist, I can diagnose, but I would have to refer them out if it's something like that. So I focus a lot on life purpose. We work with that, and if we are a match, then we can just do spiritual life coaching to work on that. But they're, "Hey, I wanna have a session just spirit medium work," and I've done that. I've done just a spirit medium session. I've done just a Reiki session. I've done just a shamanic journey session, or they can do a package for life coaching session, spiritual life coaching. So it's really a combination of what works best for them. They try different things sometimes, which is great. And that's
Mm.
part of the clinical. I couldn't do that, and spiritual I can, and I love that.
And is this
So,
all online, or do you do anything in
yes.
person as well?
No, for now, I'm just doing online. Yeah.
Okay. Now you mentioned that you do group work. What does that look like?
So group work could be, I like to keep it 8, no more than 12 people, and I may just lead a meditation, and it may just be one very actually, I did one years ago, and it had a good response rate because the question was, "Who am I?" And "Know Thyself" was the title, and I got a lot of people that wanted to be in that meditation group, that one particular. So the group could look like, starting off with a meditation, or it could be whatever a theme may be. In the past, it's been on grief. It could be life purpose, but that's more one-on-one. We could do like just an overall theme of that.
Mhm.
I've done different themes over a 6 to 8 week period, so it just depends on what I want to work with. Or if I'm seeing a lot of one thing, I'll have that theme and work with a group within 6 to 8 weeks, working 8 to 12 clients. I wouldn't want to have a huge group at first. So that's kind of what that looks like.
Mhm. Beyond your chapter in Awakened Hearts, you have a complete book that you are in the process of writing and getting ready to release, and it's called
Yes.
"You Are in This World, Not of It. Remember Who You Are and Create the Life You Love." Tell me about this book and why you chose to write it.
Yeah. First, I just want to say I'm very excited to be in Awakened Hearts. I'm really excited for this your book that's coming out.
Our book, it's
Very
our book.
Our book coming out very soon. So I'm very excited to be a part of that. It's beautiful. I just want to say that beautiful work that you are doing for so many. Um, and my book, "You're in This World, Not of It." It actually it's my memoir of very hard life lessons and very joyful lessons where I share with the reader. I share some of my stories, and it's to help people really know that they're not alone, that we're more alike than we are different. Um, and some are very personal, but I think they're important because some people feel very alone in certain situations that I share with in the book. And at the end of each chapter, I have some pretty powerful questions to have them reflect on remembering who they are. Because, and I'll say this, and I say it in my book, it's not a secret. We are spirits having a human experience. And I think the sooner more people can really get that, they will feel more empowered. Um, so my book is working with that. You are not you are in this world, not of it. So we are in this physical world, but we're not of it. We're much more than these physical bodies. So that's what it's a memoir. It's lessons. It's questions to help people really start thinking. Okay, what does it mean if I'm spirit in a human body? What does that really mean? And going to the creative part is kind of what we've touched on this morning. Is you're creating a life. We are creators. We can create the life we love, but a lot of times we feel so stuck that we let life happen to us instead of us taking charge of our own lives. So, my hope is in my book that people know they're not alone and they can get out of that space if they're willing to do the heavy work, the deep work, I should say.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this will be released summer 2025, is that right?
Yes, summer 25. Yes, yes, yes. Yes,
Good,
I'm
good,
working
good.
on it.
I
Working
love
on it.
that.
Yes.
You know, this theme that you have honed in on of life purpose, it's
Yeah.
so interesting because, that was your path. You're trying to figure out your own purpose and kinda get clear on that, and I will say that is probably what I am most drawn to in the area of
Mhm.
coaching, like, when I connect with people and work with people. I can help pull that out of them so
Yep.
fast because my guess is you're probably the same way. You can see something inside of them.
Yes.
You can
Yep.
see the greatness inside of them that they can't even see in themselves yet.
Yes, and I don't you love I really love that. It's like, I see
Yes,
it, and it's for them to see it themselves like, I can see it." But as you know as a coach too, is they have to see it, believe it, know it, do it, act on it.
that's right.
But it's so beautiful to see it because they have that it's like, "Come on. We're getting
It's right
there. We're
there.
getting there."
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I love it.
Yeah. And
That
you
and
just
it's yeah.
cheering them
I know.
on, wanting them, come on,
Come on,
see it,
you're
see it.
almost there. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's really cool.
I had a therapist friend say that, trying to get people to look at their issues or even trying to get people to, like, see that purpose is like
Yeah.
trying to get your dog to watch TV. Like, you're holding their face and they're
Like,
like,
"Come
"Oh,
on." It's, like, all over the place. Yeah, yeah. But the beautiful thing is, and I know you've seen this too, David, is when they get it. When they get it, it's like, there it is, and I love it. I mean,
yeah."
that brings me joy. That brings me joy to see others living what they wanna live, living on purpose, living their purpose, right? I mean, we are living purpose because we're all love, but having joy in creating what you really want is so powerful and beautiful to see.
Mhm.
So,
As
yeah,
someone who has been on this spiritual path for quite some time, and I know you're aware of other, teachers and simultaneously you're seeing all the things that are happening in our world right now.
yeah.
What what would you say is unfolding? What do you see from your perspective that's happening?
That's actually a really good question. I mean, we can the social media can be empowering and negative, so I try not to stay, on that or news long because that can just bring people down. I try to see I see the positive negatives. Negative is not all foo-foo and rainbows and unicorns, but I tend to try to stay on the side of love instead of fear. And there's a lot of chaos. Actually, I'm writing an article right now from Awaken magazine, hitting on this a little bit. There is a lot of chaos right now, and we as a human race can work together, or we can, I'll say it nicely, sling mud and try to be right. That's not gonna solve anything. I like you said, the teachers I've seen Deepak Chopra, the late Wayne Dyer, and Eckhart Tolle on stage together years ago, and they were talking about higher consciousness, and I know on a soul level, I don't think I'm gonna change that. On a soul level, we are shifting to a higher consciousness. My hope is that we go more towards love instead of fear. And the fear is, I'm right, you're wrong. They're this, that, and that's never going fighting has never, ever, ever solved anything. It just continues that cycle. So what I would love to see in the world and the work and the writing I'm doing is to hopefully let people know that we are all one. We are all one. And if we get down to purpose, it's really about love. So if we can focus on that and really see that, know that we're spirits having a human experience, there wouldn't be all the chaos. We would be in higher consciousness. We would be taking care of the planet. We would be more loving, I guess is the way I would say that.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
DixieWillis.com is your
Yeah.
website. And you're also on Facebook and LinkedIn. And so we'll put all of those links in the show notes. If you're listening on your phone now, you can swipe up and find those links. Dixie, thank you for what you're doing in the world. Encourage people to go to your website, DixieWillis.com, and sign up for that free 15-minute call to just check to see if there's a good fit and hear all the ways that you can help them. So
Yeah.
thank you for all the ways that you're making a difference in the world. Really appreciate it.
And thank you too. You are doing it as well. I appreciate you too. Thank you for this time. I really appreciate it, David.
Thanks for listening to the Awaken Magazine podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and our other conversations, would you mind taking a moment to leave a 5-star review and maybe even a comment on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? That's one of the ways that you can give back to the show and help us reach more people. And of course, feel free to share the episode with a friend. And if you're not already on our email list, we send out an inspiring email every Monday morning full of articles and interviews. Just head on over to awakenedmagazine.com and click subscribe and join for free. Our hope is that all the resources we share will help our world continue awakening to love.